So, as I mentioned earlier, I just got back from 2 weeks of volunteering at Camp Defendable Pines, first week as a CIT trainer and second week as a chaplain. I came home yesterday with 3 mosquito bites, 2 henna tattoos, 1 bracelet made for me by a camper, and absolutely no idea of what to talk about for this service. I mean, I had ideas, but they were either too grandiose or too easy to dismiss. The history of drag would be a seminar course, and a talk about how satirist Randy Rainbow uses drag could have possibly been too obscure. So I'm just going to talk about drag in general, and we will see where we end up, shall we? Okay. Now, some of you may be wondering, what is drag? Is it just people dressing up in the clothing of a different gender? Does it always involve people of the LGBTQ community? Are drag queen story hours a threat to children in our society? Well, drag, according to our friend Wikipedia, is a performance of exaggerated femininity, masculinity, or other forms of gender expression, usually for entertainment purposes. Drag usually involves cross-dressing. A drag queen is someone, usually male, who performs femininely, and a drag king is someone, usually female, who performs masculinely. Performances often include comedy, social satire, and at times political commentary. So what this means is that my wearing jeans to work is not considered drag. However, RuPaul donning dresses, prosthetics, a wig, and exaggerated makeup to perform a song or judge other drag queens on his eponymous show is drag. The concept of drag is thought to date back at least to the Elizabethan era, if not maybe way back further to the Greeks, when actors were exclusively male-identified and would dress in women's clothing to perform. While drag is a crucial component of the LGBTQ community, one's identity in drag does not necessarily correlate to the person's offstage gender identity or sexual orientation. So, someone assigned male at birth may or may not identify as gay or female or in their real life personal identities. So, here's the thing. Men have often dressed in women's clothing for comedic effect. Think of Benny Hill or the actors in Monty Python. But this is not drag. They are just playing a part. Cisgender straight white men being funny is a separate concept altogether from being a drag queen or being transgender. Being a drag queen is an essential aspect of the person in question. They embody drag in all its fabulousness. When I was younger and going to Rocky Horror Picture Show every weekend, I thought that Dr. Frankenfurter was maybe an example of drag. Yet, while there are elements of drag in Tim Curry's performance, such as the exaggerated makeup, he is not a drag queen. A drag queen imitates female gender roles and signifiers. However, Dr. Frankenfurter, despite the bustier, does not. Now, I happen to know of a drag queen through my personal connections. Evie Oddly, who won the 11th season of RuPaul's Drag Race, is the child of someone I went to elementary and middle school with. Evie, spelled Y-V-I-E, used to consider themselves merely a skinny, black gay guy before embracing drag in 2012. Then Evie, who now identifies as genderqueer and uses he, she, they pronouns, started using drag to confront gender stereotypes. Evie's look is outrageous and unconventional, stemming from their use of found objects due to financial necessity. They like to shock and surprise the audience, blending artistry, fashion, performance, and concept. They like to remind people that drag is a queer art form. Now, about that question about, perverting today's youth with Drag Time Story Hour, well, when public libraries started doing Drag Queen Story Hour in 2015, there were critics, surprise. They were quick to say that it contributes to the grooming of children to be gay. Now, what's interesting is that The intent of the program was actually to promote reading and diversity, showing children the imagination and play of gender fluidity, and give kids positive and glamorous and unabashedly queer role models. Here's the great thing about children. They are judgment-free beings. My own younger son was very ready to embrace the fact that his older brother's friend had transitioned. Griffin was like, okay, I know the new name now. And I was like, great, that's awesome. Yet children are often inundated with media that dictates what is male and what is female, like toys, for example, or clothing. Drag Queen Story Hour has helped children learn about acceptance and being loved for who they are, being their authentic selves. And there is no record of a child who is gay being converted to being straight because of Straight Person Story Hour. Now, drag, as you will find out, is an amazing concept. My partner in crime, Sam, will go into more detail about how we can embrace the lessons of drag. Thanks.
Partners in Sunday crimes. It's awesome.
Be gay,
Very Unitarian. When I was around the age of 10, I met Reggie. Reggie was unlike anyone I had ever met. Reggie was tall, always wore crop tops and short shorts. Reggie's braids were really long and perfect, like on point. And I was always mesmerized by Reggie's nails. The longest acrylics I had ever seen, painted bold and bright and glossy. It was impossible to dislike Reggie. They gave all the love to anyone they met, all that love that they had hoped to receive in return. Reggie was Reggie. Bright, bold, and joyful, just the way we liked them. One evening, I saw a woman coming up the walkway. All of the adults were getting dolled up to go out dancing. And this woman is tall, in these wonderful black heels, braids swept up in a perfect swirl, a strapless black sequin gown stopping just above the knees. And then I heard Reggie's voice. And when I saw Reggie fully in the porch light, absolutely stunning, beautiful. Reggie was beautiful. And I not verbatim, but I remember hearing a neighbor leaning out going, "Girl, you look good. I wish I could pull off a dress like that. Damn." I am so grateful to be raised by adults who are so accepting, because that wouldn't fly everywhere, unfortunately. A few years later, the iconic, classic To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar was released. It is just as good now as it was back in 1995. Three glorious drag queens, if you are not familiar with this story, Vida, Noxzema, and Chi-Chi, go on a road trip from New York City to Hollywood in a 1967 Cadillac DeVille convertible. And of course, their car has to break down just outside a teeny little town somewhere in the Midwest, and hijinks ensue, and there's great music and fabulous choreography and fashion to die for. It's a story of friendship and strength and compassion, peppered with wit and humor. Everything goes swimmingly, everyone gets their happily ever after, all wrapped up in a perfect bow, the end. Except maybe it didn't go so sweetly. That's not to say that it isn't a story about three fabulous drag queens and the story of their friendship, their strength, their compassion, the compassion of others. If you look a little deeper, though, there are a number of difficult subjects they face or witness. Homophobia, gender stereotypes, abuse by law enforcement, racism, economic disparity, ageism, ableism, domestic violence, sexual assault, bullying, general judgment of any person, really. It is a lot. This story took place 30 years ago, and yet, I think we can agree these are all issues we are still confronted with today. In some ways, things have gotten a little better. There's more awareness of these issues, which means there are more people speaking out, more people taking action. There are more people who wholeheartedly believe that no and stop are complete sentences. Things are far from perfect, but there are more of us who speak and act for what is right. More of us who believe love will win out. While Vida, Noxzema, and Chi-Chi are confronted with these situations, they're scared. They are intimidated, and they are angry, and they try to let the personal attacks just slide right off of them, and they do wonder, they question whether they should get involved with these injustices they witness, just as we all do. The queens in Tu Wong Fu are fictional. My heart is broken, but they're fictional. But they are brave and kind, just like the real queens and kings in our communities, just like Reggie. They are frequently on the front lines, using their vibrant personalities to call attention to the things that must change, like the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, front lines, Stonewall, front lines. They see change and they act. The drag community is difficult to ignore, and they use that superpower to its fullest. Now, as Noxzema and Vida coached Miss Chi-Chi from being a drag princess to becoming a drag queen, they abided by the 4 steps of becoming a queen. And I'm willing to bet y'all can get on board with this. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Step 1. Let good thoughts be your sword and shield. Like attracts like. If we can remind ourselves of our value, that we are all worthy of dignity and kindness, then we will surround ourselves with people who feel the same, because we are stronger together. Can you get on board with that?
Yeah.
All right, good. Step 2. Ignore adversity. There will be roadblocks. There will be roadblocks. on the way to creating justice. Make your own detour. There will be people who think the work you do is pointless. Hold your head up, laugh, and wave as you pass them by. Can you get on board with that?
Yeah.
Step 3, abide by the rules of love. Y'all, this is self-explanatory. Everything we do is centered in love. It is our driving force. Can you get on board with that?
Yeah.
Good. Step 4. Larger than life is just the right size. Live out. Live proud. Be the squeaky wheel. Be the pea under the mattress. Be difficult to ignore. Be the pea under the mattress. P-E-A. The pea under the mattress. We will be seen, we will be heard, we will be felt. We are unrelenting. We are Unitarian Universalists. Can you get on board with that?
Yes.
Well then, congratulations, y'all have found your inner kings and queens. Be bright, be a light, spread joy. Be you, be your authentic self. Lead with love. That is what our communities, our country was meant to do. And if you question that, even just a tiny bit, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Referring back to my dear movie, the abusive sheriff claimed that when the founding fathers declared liberty and justice for all, they didn't really mean that. The farmer he spoke to responded back, I can tell you one thing about them founding fathers of America. They had fabulous wigs. Oh, I'm so glad you laughed at that because it cracks me up every time. Please join us however you feel comfortable for our closing song as we remember that all we do, all we are, is centered in love.